picture.
Okay, great. Hello, James.
All right, we're good to
All
go.
right. So I noticed you don't have a Unite for Good theme banner, so I wanted to make sure you had one of these. And yeah, look at that. It brings some color into Rotary. Yep. Thank you. Appreciate that.
President, though, is in Italian, Sicily.
I know it's not Mario Cesar Martins anymore. It is because he's from Brazil. Thank you. But I kind of like using it because I have a connection back to Brazil. All my father's family is from there.
Oh.
So I love the idea of having a Brazilian president of Rotary. So I wasn't going to give up on him. But yes, the actual president is from Italy now. And he seems like a terrific guy also. I want to thank you for being here and for inviting me and letting me talk to you for a few minutes. I think I'll probably avoid the podium because we're a small group. And this is going to turn into a conversation, I think, ultimately. But I'd like to start off by sharing with you somebody that travels with us on our travels and has been just about every Rotary Club meeting. And it's a way for me to, I'll share with you who I have here. Thank you, Kay, for carrying him in for me, because he's rather heavy. You can tell me who this is. It's not me.
I'm doing Rotary.
Yes,
Which one of
Paul
the
Harris?
four?
Paul Harris.
Polaris, yeah.
It's the founder, the creator, the man who conceived of the idea of Rotary to begin with. Paul Harris, I'm going to share this with you. Many of you already know the story, but for those that don't, Paul Harris grew up in a small New England town in Vermont. And before I get to that, let me tell you why I've come to have Paul Harris. Has anybody been to a Rotary governor installation? No. James, were you at the installation in Santa Fe?
No, I think
Okay.
I was traveling.
Every installation for the last 10 years or so of a governor in our district has received Paul Harris to take care of him for the year. When Richard Haas received Paul Harris, Richard Haas put him on his mantelpiece in his living room. And the first thing that happened was his dog went into the living room, saw this new arrival, and kind of crouched down and went, "Brother." And the way Richard described it, that never stopped throughout the year. Paul Harris stayed in Richard's living room. The Yatsurmerga last year, Paul Harris stayed in his garage until it became my turn to take over Paul Harris. And I decided I felt pretty adamant about Paul Harris coming with me on these trips. So he's been to every Rotary Club meeting, about 22 so far, except one where I forgot it, but a poor guy. But I'm doing this so that Paul Harris can see the Rotary world that he inspired in 1905 when he started Rotary. But more importantly, so that we can still be inspired by Paul Harris, because he was a fairly ordinary guy, really. He was kicked out of his prep school. He ultimately matriculated through college and became an attorney. And he had an extraordinary idea called Rotary, which started in 1905 after he'd been in Chicago for 9 years practicing law. And he had this idea of business associates meeting with other business associates over coffee and getting together and rotating from office to office and enjoying it, getting to know each other better. Where did that come from? Well, growing up in this small New England town in Vermont, that's what life was like amongst business owners. The CPA knew the barber who knew the teacher and so forth. And they not only did business together, but they went to each other's football games and their kids' christenings and bar mitzvahs, and they knew each other in an intimate way as business associates, but also as personal friends. And that's what you are here in Los Alamos. As I was listening, I said I was inspired already, even without having those folks from the chamber come. Because what you were talking about, each other's, going to the football game for your kids and being involved with each other's lives, is exactly what Paul Harris had in mind when he started Rotary in 1905. It wasn't until 1907 that he had the idea of doing a service project. And who knows what that was? Rob. Yeah, toilets in the center of Chicago, in the inner loop, so that people that shop downtown would have a place to go. They could stay downtown longer and they could shop longer. So that was the first service project in 1907. And then shortly thereafter, they devised the idea of service above self, that motto, which we've had with us since the early days of Rotary. Service above self is central to who we are as Rotarians, and it's really what inspires us in our service work every day. So Paul Harris really started the idea of connection, where we get together with people we know, and engagement, where we do things with those people we know. Connection and engagement are the polarity of Rotary these days. You all are connecting and engaging with all the things that you described that you're doing in September and October. I've gone to your calendar, your online service calendar, I'm not sure what you call it, but your events calendar. And it is chock full of things that Rotary Club of Los Alamos is doing in your community. That is engagement. That is doing things with the people you know. That is connection and engagement. That is Unite for Good. That is connection, unite for good, engagement. That's what you're doing when you're doing those things. And that's the way you're going to rebuild this club into a force that it once was, starting in 1966 in this community. You were chartered in 1966. You've been a Rotary Club for 59 years. So my question to this club is, what's it going to look like in another 59 years? What's it going to look like in another 10 years? And the work that you're doing in these service projects in your community, and combining it with a membership drive, with every time you do something, you've combined it with a membership drive, isn't that right? Pretty much. James?
We try, we can do better.
Okay. But that's going to rebuild this club and provide you an opportunity to have more Rotarians do more good in Los Alamos. And more Rotarians are more hands, and more hands are more good. And more good is more peace in your community and around the world. And I'll get to that in just a minute. I want to share with you some tools that we're going to provide you with. You'll see these on your table. And I encourage you to write on the back your club name and the date that you meet. And be prepared to hand these out to people that ask you about Rotary. Where are the pins? You'll see, ask me about Rotary pins. Yes, thank you. And when they ask you about Rotary at a event, one of these many events that are listed on your events calendar, have these in your pocket so that you can invite people to join you at Rotary. It's not enough to just tell them about Rotary and then come to a meeting, give them the date and time. If they have this sitting on their dresser, sitting on their refrigerator or something, they're going to be more likely to come. But when they do, they'll give this to somebody at Rotary and greet them as an honored guest.
And then wear these.
And then where you're asking about Rotary pins, absolutely. So Paul Harris, in his travels through the world, because he did see the growth of Rotary from just one club in Chicago, Rotary Club number 1, to a worldwide organization. He realized that Rotary could be a force for peace in the world. He knew that. He had envisioned that. And in fact, he said in his time, that peace is not an illusion, but a choice. one that begins with understanding, friendship, and cooperation between people of goodwill. He said that if we have no peace, it's because we've forgotten that we belong to each other. And peace cannot be achieved through force, but rather through fostering our interconnectedness. Paul Harris was thinking about peace in the early days of Rotary. And you're thinking about peace in your collaboration with Rotary Club's Centro Passport in your upcoming peace convention, which I will be at, and I'm going to really look forward to being there and participating in any way I can. In fact, Rotary participated in the chartering of the United Nations in 1945. Rotary was there in the room when that charter was being developed. And then since then, Rotary has developed peace centers around the world. There's currently 8 of them. In Pune, India, there will be a 9th peace center built in 2027. What's a peace center? Peace centers are areas of scholarship for professional people that can go and learn about peace and conflict resolution. It's available to the people who apply for it. It's a scholarship that's paid for by Rotary International. And they can go there and learn about how to resolve conflict around the world. They go back into their communities, they go back into their professions, whether it's law or medicine or anything. And they can, oftentimes it's non-governmental agencies, and they use these skills in order to help bring more peace to that part of the world. In fact, it's interesting to note that in Ukraine, for example, where cities are under siege and we know what's happening there, there are over 50 global grants that are being funded by Rotary right now. And those are grants that are in cooperation with Ukrainian Rotary clubs and Rotary clubs of the US and around the world, in Poland. In Israel, despite all the chaos and challenges there, there are global grants taking place currently that are providing PTSD support, and they're planting trees in the Negev desert to guard against land degradation. And even in Russia, Rotary clubs are supporting rehab centers for children with cerebral palsy and launching environmental education eco parks in Russia. And global grants continue to be part of the life of Rotarians around the world in over 200 countries. Global grants is how we engage in peace around the world. It was inspired by Paul Harris's original idea of creating a more peaceful world by recognizing our interconnectedness and the fact that we really truly do belong to each other. And that's something that we'll be emphasizing on the beginning of October when we get together for the Peace Conference. So how many people are going to the Peace Conference? I'm going. Did you know about it?
No.
Okay. I'm going to share with you some, among other things, I have some handouts for events that are coming up. Deb, would you help? So you can, maybe you can help. I can join. So these are events coming up in the district where we can engage with each other, connect, engage. Another thing that the district is doing that was just approved is a district-wide business record. So for those of you that are still running businesses, or that are engaged in leadership in a business, and for those future Rotarians that want to join Rotary in order to connect better with other Rotarians in business, this directory will be, I think, will be a help for you in your recruitment of new Rotarians. So one of the things on there is the Peace Center, I think, is listed. Zone Institute is coming up later in October. Linda, I think it was your wife. Where is she, by the way?
Colorado.
Okay.
Taking care of six.
Okay. I saw her driving. She participated in the board meeting last night driving, and I thought she was driving back. She asked me to talk about maybe she'll listen to the recording. She asked me to talk about the structure of Rotary, and talking about Zone Conference and Zone Institute is a good segue to talk about, well, how is Rotary structured in terms of the Rotary International, the zone. What is the zone anyway? And clubs and districts. So anybody help me out with zone? What is Zone Institute? Or what is the zone? How many districts are in the zone? James,
The Rocky Mountain region, I don't know how many districts.
All right. So Rotary is divided into 34 zones around the world. In a zone, it consists of multiple districts. Our zone is 26 and 27. I won't get into the paired zone thing, but it's 30 districts. 30 districts, including New Mexico and West Texas, which is our district, and everything north and west, including Hawaii. The zone plays a very important role in the training of district governors. That's their primary responsibility. So there was a zone conference in San Diego that Deborah and I went to as part of my training as a district governor. There was a zone conference in Spokane, Washington, which Deborah and I went to, which was year 2, the training. And then there's the zone conference here in Albuquerque, which is unusual. I don't think it's been here in New Mexico or in our district for at least 10 years. So it's really an opportunity to get to know the larger world of Rotary. It's a mini international conference. It's 30 districts, and it's I think it's going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be exciting to have it here in Albuquerque. The district governors that I know of are super excited to be here because for us, Albuquerque is, the place we go to get to Sam's Club or go to the airport. For them, it's Route 66. It's Breaking Bad. It's an iconic city, and they're very excited about being there. I hope they are as excited to actually be here. Deb and I were at Old Town, and we've fallen into the kind of snob attitude of I want to be Santa Fe. But no, Old Town is legit. It is a legit place. It is Old Town in Albuquerque. And it was we spent a pleasant few hours there having a really nice time. So, no, I think Albuquerque is a great location for Zone Conference. So that's Zone. International, we know International. Rotary International is based in Chicago. And I think most of you are aware that covers the entire world, including in something like 200 countries, 34,000 Rotary clubs, between 1.2 and 1.4 million Rotarians, depending upon whether or not you're going to include Rotaract in your numbers. And then Zone, which I talked about in our district. So that's how it's structured, essentially. Zone Institute is the portion of the Zone Conference that trains the governors. And the Zone Conference is those last few days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where you're going to get to know a lot of other Rotarians from around the zone. And
So Laura will be really active.
so, yeah, good point. So Jeff Weinrack, who's district governor-elect, he will be, that's part of his training, is to be there at Zone Institute. And then Laura as well, your own Laura, who just moved to, or is moving to Clear Ranch. No, where's she moving to? Anyway, north of Albuquerque. Cositas, okay. So she'll be doing her training as well as a nominee. On the issue of membership, so I think you're doing a lot of great stuff in terms of recognizing that every service opportunity is also a membership development opportunity. But what I've noticed in my studies of your club is that only about 8 out of 19 members have ever sponsored another Rotarian. So I'm going to ask those of you, the other 9, to think about, did I get the math right there? I saw you going like this. Anyway, 11 to sponsor someone. And that's what these are going to help with, and the pins are going to help with. Ask me about Rotary. So think about those people that you know you're a Rotarian even, but you've never asked. Deb and I were talking about that on the way to one of our club meetings, and we started thinking about, I mean, in my own office, I've been going to Rotary for years, and that's something Tom does. But a number of them have asked me about Rotary, so I invited one of them to our club, and he came last week. And we'll see if he decides to join. He's in his early 30s, and our club would love to have him. I suspect he'll join, but we'll see. But I'd like to have a show of hands of those of you who have joined Rotary because you were asked by somebody who was invited to Rotary. So Brian, you didn't raise your hand.
I was a junior Rotarian in Los Angeles. I represented our high school and area. And so I attended Rotary meetings as a high school student.
So when you came to Los
I
Alamos?
came here, and 32 years ago, I asked a Rotarian, J.D. Conway, what about the club? I was interested in joining. So I was not asked to join. I asked to join.
To join, okay. Yeah.
But
Well,
Brian
very
did ask me to join.
He asked you to join? Yeah,
Brian did.
Brian's asked a lot of people to join over the years. Brian's a rainmaker here in Los Alamos. But the point that I'm making, because most of you did raise your hand, is that they're not going to come if they're not asked. They're not typically, unless they already have some connection to Rotary like Brian had, they're just not going to come. They don't necessarily know they're welcome. So you need to let them know they're welcome to come. I just want to pause and ask if there's questions that you have about what we're doing in the district to support the Rotary clubs, or what Rotary International does or Zone does in order to support the work here in this club. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Tom, can you talk a little bit about some district-wide or maybe global projects that are sponsored by some of the clubs in the district, or even some initiatives that you're excited about?
I'm very excited about International Project Fair, which is going to be in October in James, like you, there's so many dates whirling around in my head. I need to keep them straight. But it is on that list of events coming up.
I saw it on here.
Yeah, the International Project Fair is what used to be called the Bi-District or the Tri-District. And it brings together mostly Mexican and U.S. Projects that are international in scope that require a partnership between the U.S. and another country. There are others. We may have a Guatemala project represented there. We may have a peace project represented there, which is an organization in El Paso that helps to develop a better understanding of the border issues around the issue of immigration. And they have an organization there where they bring the stakeholders of all the organizations around El Paso on both sides of the border. They bring them together to help them understand each other, that interconnectedness, to better understand each other that Paul Harris talked about. Brian?
I'm concerned about Russia. And the Rotary clubs there, how do they even function in that government?
I don't know, but that's a great question, Brian. I'm going to assign you to research.
On a related note, real quick, I did see, I think, one of the recent Rotary magazines, or maybe it was in one of the online email newsletters, or maybe I just stumbled on it, was about the Rotary Club of Jerusalem, I think, and how they are a club made up of Israelis and Palestinians. It's challenging, but it can happen, if people want it to work.
On that question, Brian, I'm not going to answer. I can't answer it directly because I don't know. But I was asked in Clovis what the position is of Rotary on vaccinations. What's our position? Are we still supporting Polio Plus and so forth? Well, yes, we're absolutely still supporting Polio Plus. Yes, we absolutely believe in vaccinations. And what Rotary's response to the question of the political question around vaccinations is that it doesn't matter at all to Rotary, that Rotary has to function in every country around the world, just about, with a variety of different governmental organizations and governments that run the whole gamut. And so Rotary really tries to focus on what Rotary does and not worry about what the government's doing.
I like.
Maybe that's what's happening in Russia. Rotary's focusing on what Rotary does. What it says to me is that there's Rotarians throughout the world that have the 4-way test hanging on their wall, translated into their language. And if you've been to Rotary clubs around the world or seen the 4-way test in other languages, it's cool. I mean, it reminds you of how international Rotary is. I was in my father's CPA's office many years ago, and he had the 4-way test in Hebrew on his wall behind it. And it just, you see things like that and something clicks in your brain that says, we are part of really an extraordinary organization that has a few things in common. The 4-way test, service above self. If it's just those two things that keep us connected to each other, that's pretty extraordinary. Yes.
I have a stockbroker, Barry Gerst, as I'm sure you know him,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Oh, it is.
his office, he has a 4-way test on his desk.
That's fantastic. 4-way test. The 4-way test started in the Club Aluminum company. You all know that story? All right. Well, for briefly, because it's 1:04, I don't want to go overtime, which I already have. But the Club Aluminum company was, I believe it was in the 1930s. It was failing, and they brought in a turnaround expert, a CEO, to help turn it around or shut it down. And early on in his efforts, a group of executives came in and said, this is a fantastic organization with fantastic people. We don't want to see it shut down. We truly want to see it succeed. So he spent some time better understanding the company, and he saw all sorts of things that disturbed him. Among them, they're making all sorts of claims about their pots and pans, their aluminum pots and pans, that couldn't be substantiated, that couldn't really be confirmed as true. They're also saying a lot of negative things about their competition. He developed this 4 questions, and he shared them about a month or two later with his executive team and said, I've been evaluating everything that comes across my desk according to these 4 questions, and we have failed as a company. Would you be willing to use these 4 questions as going forward as our motto, as our guiding light for our company? They had borrowed something like $6,000 in 1930 money to help keep the company alive. Anyway, the answer, of course, was yes, we're willing to do that. And that company, within a few years, completely transformed itself and turned into a profitable enterprise, which was largely attributed to the 4-way test. That 4-way test was later adopted by Rotary. The CEO was a Rotarian. So he introduced it to Rotary. Rotary International adopted it as the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And let's all unite for good in Los Alamos and become that amazing organization that you once were and that you will still become and that you are currently. You just need more help to do it. I have such fond memories of being here in Los Alamos when I was the husband of a Rotarian who was a member of the Espanola Rotary Club. We would come here for Christmas parties, holiday parties, and you would come to Espanola. And I remember Deb selling Los Alamos on the idea that it's safe to come to Espanola. And we had so much fun. There were 40 or 50 people at those events. And you worked together in order to make things happen, both in Espanola and in Los Alamos. So I proposed to James recently that Los Alamos Rotary Club support Espanola in their desire to become relevant again in Espanola. there's really only 2 members there anymore. And they really very much want to keep a Rotary Club in Espanola, but they can't do it by themselves. So to the extent that you all can respond to a request, James is going to keep working on Tom Cordova to make things happen in Espanola, where you can partner with them and provide, and Rotary Club of Santa Fe is going to do the same thing, to just build up the numbers that attend service projects in Espanola, so that Rotary looks like the organization it is and can be there. There's something going on in Espanola and use your help with. And all 2 of them may join you on some of your service projects as well. You already have some of Santa Fe's Rotarians that come up here on a regular basis. Carolyn and John and others. Deborah and I have been up a number of times. Thank you, Deborah. Reminding me to share this. Important event in April of next year is the district conference in Santa Fe. There's going to be some really awesome things. On the back of this, there's a little bit of a schedule as to what to expect. We have a national speaker, Raj Sisodia, coming. He's written Conscious Capitalism and The Healing Organization, 2 books that have been very important to me in my business life. They're about the convergence of service, capitalism, and that businesses can be a force for good in the world. And partnering with Rotary, it's even more powerful, supercharged forces for good. So Raj Sisodia will be there. Alan Mallory, author of Life Lessons from the Top of Mount Everest. He and his family scaled Mount Everest, and he has lots of really inspirational stories around what that entailed to get his whole family up Mount Everest. So really should be very fun and exciting being there in Santa Fe for a district conference in April. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and attention today. Appreciate it.